There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, my name is Sean and my channel is Sean Breathes Books. Welcome back to another book haul. Got a bunch of good stuff here for you. This is a Canadian short story collection from Nova Scotia that I previewed in one of my early university library book vlogs. And I loved the first story so much that I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. And rather than borrow the book back from the library to read the whole collection, I bought it. Sue me. It is called Raphael Has Pretty Eyes by Elaine McCluskey. I remember somebody commented on that vlog about this book and knew and liked the book. Maybe even knew the author. I don't remember who that comment was from, but anyway, I'm excited. Came out in 2022, and Elaine McCluskey at that time had 5 other books, 3 short story collections, and 2 novels. I had never heard of her until I randomly picked her book off the shelf. I'm pretty sure I read the opening to It's Never What You Think It Will Be, so I'll skip to the next story, but I just noticed the epigraph, so let's hear that first. It's not attributed to anyone. Life is just one extended series of anecdotes, strung together until they kill you. Yep, that kind of sums it up, doesn't it? So the second story is called It's Your Money. I'll read the first paragraph and then a few short lines of dialogue that follow. Trevor is wiring $200 to his quote-unquote girlfriend in a small African country he will never, in this lifetime, see. He repeatedly asks during the Western Union transaction what the exchange rate is, down to the 5th decimal point, even though the currency he is dealing with is near worthless, and the decimal point has as much impact as a sigh. So you say the rate is 0.012210 and the US rate is 1.32220? Yes, Trevor. Well, last Tuesday it was 0.012213. Last Tuesday, I was in love. Well, that is a very enigmatic opening to that short story, so... My next book is a book that my newly rediscovered, not that new, it's now been almost 6 months, I guess, since I rediscovered my old university friend Daryl and have really deeply reconnected with him. And he's not as much of a reader as I am, but he reads, and he sent me a book that he read and enjoyed and thought I might too. And it's by an author I'm aware of, a Dutch author, and whom I've never read. The following story by Cees Nooteboom, translated from the Dutch by Rilke. The protagonist, Herman, went to bed last night in Amsterdam, thinking of outer space. Now he has woken up in Lisbon with Portuguese money in his wallet. The epigraph here is from Theodore Adorno. Modesty hesitates to express metaphysical concepts directly. If one tries, one delivers oneself up to jubilant misunderstanding. Well, I love that phrase, jubilant misunderstanding. Opening paragraph. I have never had an exaggerated interest in my own person, but unfortunately, that did not imply I could stop thinking about myself at will from one moment to the next. And that morning I certainly had something to think about. Another man might have resorted to talk about life and death, but such weighty words do not come easily to my lips, even when there is no one else there, as was then the case. This is a short story collection by an indigenous writer from the Dene Nation. There is a word in front of it that I'll try to pronounce, but I don't know how to pronounce it. Chicho Dene Nation. Uncomfortably living in Canada. I don't know where in Canada Richard Van Camp lives now, but he was born in Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, and this collection is called Moccasin Square Gardens, which is a play on Madison Square Gardens, which was the big hockey arena in downtown Toronto. This was a gift from Lindy, who wrote, Richard Van Camp is such a likable guy and his stories are down to earth. Well, I've been wanting to read something by Richard Van Camp forever. I have one of his novels here, I'm pretty sure. This was published in 2019. I seem to have acquired the habit of reading the epigraph to every book I sample on my book hauls. So the epigraph from this, which is attributed to my mum, is, first punch has to be real good. The first story is called Aliens, and here's the opening paragraph. I want to tell you a beautiful story, and I've been waiting for somebody very special to tell it to. I guess it's no secret now. The star people are here. We can see a ship way up high. Its outline. No lights. It's like a big, dark, oblong stone in the sky. Most people just watch TV or Facebook now, waiting for something to happen. Some people call the ships obelisks. Apparently, there's a huge one miles high over every continent, and the oceans are boiling. Gently, though, so no fish are dying. There's a simmering to the water, and scientists are saying that the oceans and rivers are being cleansed. It's like the star people, that's what our elders call them, are helping us. Very interesting. And for the third short story collection in this 6-book book haul, this is one that was on my, not my most anticipated list, but where I did a reaction video to the CBC's article about 700 books coming out in the spring or something. And I acquired it because it sounds very interesting, and is a 2024 release. It's called Perfect Little Angels by Vincent Anioke, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Vincent Anioke is a Nigerian-Canadian queer writer, and I think these stories are very queer too. Love that cover. I'm not sure how to pronounce the story's title, but I think it is Ogbuafi. Here are the opening 2 paragraphs. When Papa returns home in the evening, I am curled up on the lemon grass carpet by the TV, watching cartoons. On the screen, red-tailed mice shuffle in widening circles, their arms interlocked, and Papa says over their lilting chorus, "Chibuke, it's time. This weekend you will become an Ogbuafi." That night I barely sleep. Through the large windows of my darkened room, I watch the wind rattle the frangipani tree in our backyard, its long and skinny limbs peeking beneath clusters of white and green leaves. 2 weeks ago, lightning flashed and thunder growled, as if the skies were prying loose a great beast. I scurried into Mama and Papa's room. Between their bodies was a span of space warmed by deep breathing. Mama snored like an airplane passing overhead, and I fell asleep to the sound in my ears. Before dawn, Papa shook me awake and pulled me aside. He said 7 was too old to be scared of the mind. A boy became a man by trying. Wow, that one grabs me. The last 2 are also 2024 releases, 2 novels. This one is by a writer that I'm not even sure where she originated from. Her name is Judith Heneghan, and she spent several years in Ukraine and Russia in the 1990s, and she now teaches at the University of Winchester. I don't know if she is British, I just don't know. But I read her first novel, Snegurochka, a couple years ago and really quite enjoyed it, and this is her second one, if that's true. She may have other publications I don't know about. But on the strength of Snegurochka, which was set in Ukraine, I had my eye on Birdeye, which has just come out. This is set in upstate New York. A man named Connor arrives at a colony called Birdeye Colony. Used to be a pilgrimage type of place, and is welcomed in by an older lady. She's 67, and I think there's others there. They're not sure who he is, but might he be offering this Birdeye Colony a lifeline? That's all I want to read from the back. And the epigraph here is unattributed, but let's read it. It looks to be in verse. Oh no, this is not the epigraph. This is maybe a preface or something. It is in verse. I will read it, but then I'll also read the opening paragraph. So it's set up on the page like this. Rose looks, but the noisy dog is gone. No yapping mouth, no pushing nose. The noisy dog is gone, and the quiet dog is watching with its ears. Opening 3 paragraphs, the first paragraph is only 1 sentence. He was probably just a hiker. Liv Ferrars hadn't noticed him as she walked through the trees, but when she turned away from the river, his bright blue jacket caught her eye. He was standing on the bridge a couple of 100 yards downstream, between the struts, near the public information sign. Young, she guessed by the way he raised his arm. He wasn't waving at her. He was taking a selfie. That cracks me up, actually. Liv didn't wait to see if he would cross over to her side or head back into the town. Instead, she continued up the slope towards the dead end of Dutchman's Road, where a track climbed between still bare beaches to the old house, her home, snug and safe from rising floodwater. Runoff could still cause problems, though, after heavy rain or during the spring thaw. Sonny had asked her to check the drain beneath the road, so when Liv reached the outlet pipe, she peered in. Immediately, she put a hand over her nose. The matted fur of a dead raccoon showed through a mesh of twigs and other debris. They'd need the gaff pole to clear it. Well, that ended a little bit in a rather smelly way, but I'm intrigued. And finally, even though I haven't heard much about this novel, and in fact I've been avoiding hearing any more about it, it's a debut novel from an Irish writer based in Berlin. But I'm in love with the cover, and I'm intrigued by what little I heard about it, and I don't want to hear a darn thing more except what I'm going to read to you from the opening. But here it is. The Coast Road by Alan Murrin. Another 2024 release, and just look, I am in love with this cover. And the end papers are kind of nice too, but it's the cover that really grabs me. Set in 1994 in a small village on the coast of Ireland. A woman who's a writer and a bohemian leaves her family to start a relationship with a married man in Dublin. I'll read the opening page because it's very short. There's a preface which I skipped over, but chapter 1 is set October 1994. There had been 2 masses already that morning, and the air was thick with incense. The church was packed, and Izzy found herself squeezed between 2 bodies. Each time she went from kneeling to sitting to standing, she felt their shoulders press against hers. She pulled a balled-up tissue from her sleeve and wiped the sweat from her forehead. She thought of removing her jumper, but wasn't sure if the top she had on underneath was decent. And besides, she'd never managed the maneuver without hitting the person next to her or exposing some part of her flesh. She didn't think she could suffer an embarrassment like that this morning. Raising her head, she was confronted by the sight of Stasia Toomey's broad back looming before her. Stasia stood stately and proud, tightly wrapped in a coat of royal blue gabardine. Kneeling again, Izzy caught the smell of sweat rising from her armpits. She bowed her head and closed her eyes. And then the responses started. She took a long, slow breath. Lord have mercy. Oh my God, I love that so much. Oh my God. So, that's what I got. Have you got anything to say about any of these? They all sound pretty darn good to me. Thanks for watching.